Hey, so today we're doing something a little different. Lindsay hasn't seen these scenarios, and I have really no idea what she's going to pick. So imagine you own a business. For some of you, you already do. You can only fix one thing. We'll give you four options. You play along, Lindsay will make her choice, and then I'll tell you what I'd fix first and why. So let's see if we're on the same page. Ready for your first scenario?
Well, I'm going to introduce myself first. Hi, I'm Lindsay.
Hi. I'm gonna try not to make any crazy faces because I've seen those little thumbnails you do for me. So if I'm just a steady face, just know that it's because Lindsay does me dirty.
And I make faces the entire time because I cannot help myself. Always. All right, let's hear the first scenario.
Awesome. So first scenario, you own a business with 18 employees. In the last 6 months, you've lost five employees. And your customers are starting to notice. What are you fixing first? Are you increasing pay, improving your onboarding, training your managers, or creating a career growth opportunity path?
Oh man, she gave me some pre examples before we came in here, and I feel like they were a little more generic pre examples. So this one's really hard for me. Okay. So, how would I approach this? The way that I approach this kind of thing is I always want to start with trying to figure out why people are quitting. Because to me, when people are quitting, especially if you're having like a mass quit with not a whole lot of employees, there's usually chaos. Whether that chaos is in the systems, the processes, or the people around, there's some sort of chaos. So it's always good to try to get that information on the exit interview. I am not an exit interviewer type of person. Like, that's not my role. So I actually don't do exit interviews, but Nicole is really great at them and she usually can get people to talk. So if it's me doing the exit interview, it's usually like, I'm out. But if it's her, they're usually like, here, let me help you. So exit interviews are not always, for me, the best one. Because that's what Nicole's for. She gets me the information in there. But during that time, I also go back to my team and I'm like, hey, look, and I'm a pretty honest person when I'm talking to my team. So like that, maybe you have a different level with your team. I'm not going to tell you the best way to handle it. I just am trying to be who I am. And I'll be like, hey, look, like, that was a lot of people that left in a short amount of time. Something's going on. What is it? Right. So I may break it down in departments and say, like, what is preventing you from feeling successful here? Right. Like, I know very well that it's not good to be like, why didn't you do this? Why are things not working? Like that kind of thing. It's better to come from of like, place of like, what are you struggling with? What can I help you with? And that is really like, as operations, like that is like my bread and butter. Is I'm an operational person. So when people are like, this is not working, I find it frustrating, I have to do too many clicks, I have to do this, I have to do that, I'm like, cool, let me solve that for you. If they're like, I have to go here for approval and there for approval, I'm like, cool, let me solve that for you. I'm not going to be as great at solving the people part of it. Again, that's what you're for. But I do want to solve the people part of it too. So if it's a people thing, maybe they're not getting along. Maybe the manager is the problem. Like, that's where it might be like coaching up your managers a little more, giving your managers some insight. Like, micromanaging is hard. If you work with a micromanager, that is super hard. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times when you're going to have to be like, hey, we have to go by the book. Things are falling through the cracks. Like, we're not getting what we're doing done. We're not hitting our metrics. Like, this is what we're going to be doing, right? In short sprints. And then it's like back to the norm or whatever. Like, I understand those kind of things, but like, micromanagers can really have an effect on your team. So like, in that, and to me, like, that's a coaching up thing, right? So those are kind of the things that I look for. Usually money is not the right call. Money is a band-aid. And what that does is it just fixes it temporarily. And then people just continue getting disgruntled and then they quiet quit on you. Like, you don't want that. It's better to know what is the problem. It's better to know how you can help them versus throwing money at them and then just like hoping it all goes away. I know that was really a lot. Okay, Nicole, did I
So
get it
all of
right?
the above.
Kind of. I mean, I feel like depending on what those first initial like conversations sounds like, that gives you a good idea of like where you should be going,
I think it's really important to understand in this scenario, it gave us, three people have quit. You have 18 employees. I think it was five actually that quit. Depending on the size of your organization, losing those 3 to 5 people can be truly, truly detrimental, right? And I think it's also going to be what is the tenure that those people have in your organization? So is it someone that quit within the first 2 weeks? Is it someone that quit within the first 30 days? Or is it someone that's quitting after they've been there for several years, right? I think that a lot of times when people do quit within those first 2 weeks to a month, I would say maybe even 3 months, sometimes it might just be it wasn't the right fit, right? And it truly was like, hey, we had a great interview, you got hired. I came on board, I kind of looked at and it wasn't the vibe that I was looking for, right? And that happens. That's fair. I think truly, and when you really pull out those exit interviews, if it comes to that point, is with those people that have had a tenure with you, right? Where you need to truly understand, okay, someone who has dedicated 2, 3, 4+ years of their life to working at your organization, and all of a sudden they're leaving. What was the reason for it, right? Um, Again, if it's something that's earlier on, I would probably take a look at the onboarding process because if those first 2 weeks they quit, those first 30 days they quit, to me, it's kind of like it sounds like there was an onboarding issue because your onboarding should take a couple of weeks, a couple of months in certain situations, depending on the role, right? It's important for you to make sure you have something established. And within the first 2 weeks, that person should truly just be getting to know that organization, truly be getting, a chance to figure out their role. And there should be constant check ins. Are you checking in with the people that you're onboarding that are new? Did you set up a process for them? Are they shadowing somebody who has been there for a longer time? So to me, I'm going to say, depending on the tenure of that employee, you either may have to look at your onboarding or you have to look at that exit interview strategy to try and figure out what is causing the mass exodus.
And I will say that that is definitely true. Because there have been situations where I have not been part of the onboarding process, right? But I have seen people leave during that 30 to 90 day onboarding piece of it. And I've seen you put into place like onboarding that's very clean, very structured. And then I've seen somebody else who's going to run onboarding while you're gone. And usually that person that we hired doesn't stay. Like onboarding to me, I feel like wouldn't affect me personally because of the type of person that I am. But I know so many people that it really, really would. Like when you go into a new company, your onboarding sets the tone for your relationship, right?
Right.
Like you get a first impression, right? So the interview was not your first impression of that company. Your interview was an interview. You were nervous. You're not retaining all of that information. You probably do not even remember who you interviewed with. You just show up and you're like, oh, okay, right? Like that's 99% of the time how that works, right? And so it's like, then they're like, where do I go? And they're like, I don't know. And they're like, who's taking the new person? Like, where's this person going? And I have been in organizations that are like that. Like I've actually shown up on the first day and had that. Actually, you know what? It does bother me. I did have that one time. And I quit. I did quit. I lasted like a week and I was like, I don't even, this place is a mess. Like, I'm not even sure they'll pay their bills. Like, what? And I left. So, like, onboarding, think of it as like your first impression. Like, that is truly what it is. That interview did not count as a first impression, right? Everybody's on their best behavior in the interview. The candidate, the interviewer, like all of you. Truly, like that onboarding is like that first impression. So always keep that in your head. Like, that's what they're going to take away. If they stay 30 days, that's what they took away is like what took place in those 30 days, right? 60 days, 90 days.
I do want to say that if you're like listening to this and you're thinking, I don't have an onboarding process and I don't have anybody else and this is going to be my first hire, it is so, so important to be honest during that interview process and let people know that, right? Like There is no onboarding process at this moment. You will be my onboarding process. So we're going to work through this together. Like Lindsay said, there's some people that work really well with little to no information. And there's some people that need all of the information. I mean, they want full history, they want the receipts of everything. Like they need it and they want it. They want to dissect that information. So we're going to go back. It's like we've talked so much about hiring in the past. So it's so important for you to figure out truly who do you want to hire? Who do you need to hire for where you are in the business, right? And I think some of these things will fall into place. So again, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, well, I'm not ready to hire, obviously, because I don't have an onboarding process. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying make sure that you have an honest conversation with whoever's coming on board so they're not blindsided by possibly the lack of information and clarity on some of the things that they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that onboarding does technically start. I know that I said that like your first impression is your
Mhm.
onboarding, and that I still stand by.
Right.
But you can set up your onboarding during that interview process for sure. Like, and I'm not saying like, hey, this is what it's going to look like for your first 4 weeks, but it's as simple as, like you said, like just kind of briefly running through it, like, hey, I don't have a plan, or like, hey, I have a really structured plan for the first 90 days. You'll have an individual person. Does that, do you do well with that kind of orientation? Is there anything I can do that might support you through orientation? You can ask those things if you're really jiving in an interview with somebody. Like, you
Mhm.
want them to be successful when they come on and feel like welcomed, and you want them to stay. Ask that question. I've also used the interview process to like weed out those that will not make it through onboarding because at the time the onboarding was not there. A system change is a great time when your onboarding is going to be chaotic because you've like, especially if you're changing like an ATS or like your entire system. And I know a couple of people who have hired during this process, and it is very, very chaotic for internal employees. So anybody coming in, it's going to be chaotic, and it is very, very good to be open about that because some people just don't do well with change, right? And I'm not like, we're changing, you should be scared. It's like, hey, we have a new system. It's a lot of new. So when you go to other employees, they don't know what they're necessarily doing all the time, and we're getting in huddles and we're talking about it. We're really open to suggestions, like those kind of conversations, right? But yeah, your interview is a great way to start your onboarding process for sure.
Let's move to scenario number 2. Okay. So, situation. Everyone is coming to you. Everyone has questions. Everyone needs your approval. And you have not had a chance to have a day off, take a vacation because you are just tied to your office pretty much and answering these questions. So, how are you going to fix this? Are you going to hire an ops manager? Are you going to do a better job of documenting your processes, buy better software, or delegate more?
All right. This one is up my alley. This one is up my alley because I've done operations for a very, very long time. And I did not start in operations. As a matter of fact, I started as a catch-all for people. And because I was a catch-all, people were coming to me all the time. So this is a good note for people who are not owners. In a previous role, like my job was not an owner, but my job was the catch-all. The owner was like, I don't know what I'm doing and I can't do this. And so it was like, the only person he could hire was me. And then eventually other people got hired and we never had processes. So we all know where my answer is going to go. If people are asking you the same question over and over again, create a process for it. It does not have to be elaborate. Nicole will tell you, you will never get something elaborate from me when I am doing a process and procedure and I'm spitting it out, right? Like, it is not my thing. I'm like, here are the steps. Go ahead and put your pictures in it. Some of the great tactics I've used for creating processes. Okay. I know that was not your question. The question is, what would I do? My question is, I would make a process, right? I'd make a process. And then if I have process and I still have a lot of people in, then it might be time to hire somebody to manage the process and manage the people that are coming for the processes. So that is the answer. But let me give some tips on creating processes. Okay. If you want super elaborate processes, have at it. You can still do my hacks and have those elaborate processes. 1, if you have a team and you need your team to set up processes, have them record what they're doing. Videos are some of the best processes, right? So when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of time to make an amazing process, have them record the step-by-step process, and then you have something. So that's like I need something immediately. Like, what can I do? When we were first building out a team, we were building out a team in a very, very crazy, chaotic time. I cannot even tell you how crazy and chaotic. And it was like a small team, and we were hiring and trying to train in roles that we hadn't even developed yet. It was mass chaos. And during that time frame, when somebody figured something out, that person was in charge of creating the process by creating the video. It did not matter what you were doing. If you figured it out, create the video, you put it in the Google Drive, you labeled it, and then we tracked it later. That is a great way to just get it out there if you're like, I don't know how to do it, right? There are times that I type it out on a Word document and I'm like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And then I hand it over and the next person behind me takes the pictures because I'm very bad about getting the pictures. I'm like, in general, it's in this screen. And in general, it's in this screen. And I'm like, I'm not going to go put the little arrow on there for you to find it later. If you want to do that, here's your process, right? So there are several ways that you can do it. There are softwares out there like, I think it's, what is it, like Scribe? I can look it up. I think it's like Scribe. And it'll like, you like use it and click around and it'll create a like an SOP process for you, right? Like we've used things like that before. So there are a lot of ways to capture processes that do not require a lot of brain power. So you cannot use I don't have time for a process to literally be the excuse. If you're doing it, just record it somewhere. I don't care if you're picking up your camera on your phone and turning it and watching yourself do something, record it. Like that's the fastest way. Then you can always hire somebody later on or get an admin later on or somebody to put that crap together for you, but you just need it out there. Like you've got to get it out there that people understand what they're doing. I have literally been in a company, like I said, where we were literally replacing recruiters like every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks to a month. And every time the owner came to me, he was like, why can we not keep anybody? And I'm like, because you have no process or procedure. Nobody knows what they're doing. He's like, nope, that'll tie the business down. We can't do that. We can't do that. It'll never work. And I'm like, okay, well, you're never going to have anybody work for you long term because they stop and come ask you for every little thing that they do. There is no rhyme or reason. They don't know what to do. And he's like, well, you don't ask me. And I'm like, that's just because I'm not asking for permission. I'm just making it up as I go along. And not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying that's what worked for me. And so if you don't want people just winging it and making stuff up, put a process. If you don't like the way somebody's doing it, put out a process. So my answer would be process. I don't remember the other options. The other options were really, really good. What were they again?
The other options were hire an operations manager, document your processes, buy better software, or delegate more.
I will tell you, buying better software will not fix your problem most of the time. If you underutilize your product or your processes are crap or you're not understanding your technology, adding more technology does not fix the problem. It causes chaos. I did want to say that. There are times that you're doing a process and you're like, oh, we have a process. I want to make this faster. Add tech. Or like, I need to be able to do this and we don't have that ability. Add tech. If you're just like, everybody keeps coming to me, I think I'm going to just like get them this organizer and that'll fix things. Bad tech. Like bad tech. And if you're like, people aren't fast enough, let me get a whole new ATS. Bad tech. Okay. Bad tech. That's a process thing. That is not a tech thing. Okay. I don't remember what was the last one because I cut you off.
You're fine. I definitely agree. I think that the processes and getting them down is going to be the best option in this case for this scenario. I think a lot of times information lives in our head, right? And especially when you're hiring another person and they keep asking you questions, it's like you keep regurgitating the information and they're like, I don't retain information that way. I tell you all the time, you're like an encyclopedia of stuff. I'm like, this is what I need and I'm just going to wing it. Like I have this and then I don't remember. It's really interesting because I know you always like, I don't do detail and I don't do detail, but the detail that we do is different detail.
It is.
So we're very detailed in our own ways. And then there's other stuff that I'm like, you've told me that 20 times and I'm going to probably ask you 20 more times because it's not important to me on the day to day, right? And so it's like, it really truly matters in terms of like your role. You're going to retain the information that is most important to you. And then you're going to brain dump the rest of it, right? So the first thing I would do is to start documenting the work that's going to happen every day and make sure that, and it doesn't mean step one, two, three, A, B, to that step. It's in general, this is what we do, right? And I will tell you, one of the best assistants that I've ever had in my life, and I think about her all the time. And I was doing a lot of biz dev and I was running around all over the place. I was in my car probably a good 6 hours a day, traveling to different locations. A lot of my meetings were on over the phone. A lot of my meetings were happening while I was going through a drive-through trying to grab something to eat because I'd been driving since 4 in the morning. And I remember just coming into the office, dropping off a stack of paperwork, files, new contracts, new things, and it would just get fixed. And it was because we sat down at one point and we understood this is how she works, this is how I work, this is how we communicate. This is the process when we have a new customer, right? This is a process when we have a new requirement. We were in staffing, so a new requirement to fill orders. It worked well because she didn't have any questions for me unless it was a yes or no type of situation. Do you approve? Do I move forward? She knew the process. And at times, I think that when you have really good employees, they adapt the process better than you even created it, right? And at one point, I was like, I don't know, I don't care. Just update it how you think it's going to fit the organization best. As long as we have it updated and we can replicate the process. And that is one thing I do feel strongly about when you have someone is out, right? Let's say you have a team and that person is out, you should have enough processes that someone can come in and fill in for you, right? Especially in something like payroll or answering a customer question, being able to, delegate an issue or request something. Those are things that anyone who comes in, you should have an organized enough plan that they can just kind of jump in and take over. So I love SOPs. And I love the detail in them. So I could work on those all day, every day. They just bring me happiness.
I mean, I will say sometimes the best SOP is like, here's the checklist of what we need for the week or the day, right? Like when you're starting out, sometimes that's what it's like. And some of the best ways to get the best SOPs is as the leader of whatever. So whether you're the manager, op man, whatever it is, you're like, this is what I want. And then you give it to the downline and then they take on the responsibility of improving that, right? It's like now you own this. And if you have great employees and great, whether it's a leader or like somebody that you're trying to like coach up into leadership, like that's a great role because it allows them to like take ownership of the work that's getting reproduced in their department, right? And I've seen some people really, really flourish with that. Like, here's my outline. You guys do it over and over again and you tell me what needs to be changed and then you guys change it, right? Like you take ownership of that. So it's a really great way to like to allow your employees to like showcase their expertise and their knowledge because they're the ones doing it, right? So I love that. I firmly believe in that as well.
Awesome. This situation, right? Where projects are late. Everyone says they're overwhelmed. Things are constantly falling through the cracks. What are you fixing first? Are you going to have weekly meetings? Are you going to have better software? If you're not watching, she's making faces at me. Clear roles and responsibilities. Or are you hiring another employee?
Oh my gosh, she got brutally hard with these. She literally would not let me know. She like the one example she gave me, I'm not gonna lie, was so freaking easy. Like A, B, C, or D were pretty much the same things. I was like, I got this, or at least in my head. But this one's hard. Okay, what am I going to do?
I can
Honestly,
tell you what I would do.
huh?
I can tell you what I would do if you want to.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, and then you tell me what you're gonna do.
Okay.
So I am going to start. How many people are, did we say how many people are in this company?
We didn't.
Okay. So if it's a smaller team, having daily huddles or like work groups works really well because you start listening to what's going on. And I just want to preface with, if you're like, well, I can't do this because I have a remote team, I will tell you that is wrong. Okay. So if you ever have any questions about running a remote team, Nicole and I can definitely help. We have an actual remote team that we work with, and they're all over the place and they are required to do very specific things. Payroll. We've got people who like recruit, like we have account managers, like we have a lot of things that people are doing. And so if you're like, how do you get a team to work remotely? We can definitely help you with that. But there is a little bit of a difference between remote huddles and like in-person huddles. So you'll have to like apply this because right now in my head, I'm thinking mostly remote, but it is something that works in person better because there's a lot more camaraderie. In remote, there is a little bit of a barrier. Sometimes people don't want to communicate. So you got to kind of work through that a bit. So just be mindful of that. But if it is a small enough team, a lot of times working as a group to like work through some of the issues, and sometimes like they're all competing issues simultaneously, right? And it's like maybe people are tag teaming some of it. It's so hard when you're in that. I'm so struggling to answer this because it's so hard. So like me, I'd be like, all right, what's going on? Like, what are you guys struggling with? Okay, where do we think we can fix first and kind of stabilize? I use that word all the time. Like, what can we fix first to stabilize so that then we can go like focus on the next thing? Like when we were growing and like building really fast, I imagine things a lot. So you're going to hear me say these things a lot, but like the best way to describe what it can be like when you're growing a team is you have a sinking ship. Doesn't sound very nice. You have a sinking ship. Okay, maybe this ship's not sinking. You have a ship and it's floating, but it's got holes and the water's coming in. You're like, I plugged this one. You're like, okay, this one's plugged. We're good. We're good. And they're like, this one needs plugging. You're like, okay, I'll just plug that. And they're like, oh, wait, that one might break if I add a little more weight to it, right? So there's like this weird balancing act that happens sometimes. And so sometimes the best thing to do is like sit down with the people doing the work. What are you guys struggling with? How can we stabilize this? Getting opinions on it, right? Sometimes that's like, we need help. We need help. Like there's just not enough of us, right? And if you're a manager and you're an owner and there's just not enough people in your company and you want your company to run, I highly suggest you roll up your sleeves and help hold things in place, right? Like it's very important that you don't bounce when it starts getting very stressful like that, because your team is looking to you. If you're feeling chaotic as an owner or a manager, your team is feeling chaotic as a team, right? So you want to definitely be there with them and like showing support, listening, asking for suggestions, trying suggestions, within reason. There's always within reason. And sometimes it is hiring. Sometimes it is changing a system or adding something to your system, right? Like I did poo-poo on tech, but tech is a great thing. Maybe there's something that you can automate in the process while you're waiting to hire a person, right? So like getting opinions, evaluating it, and then like really starting to isolate like what works, which doesn't really tell you how to do those things, but like those are the things that I do when I'm like, oh, this is very chaotic. I don't know. What would you do?
I think the first thing is, yes, I agree with like what you're saying. I think it's really important to be able to know what everyone's roles and responsibilities are, and for your team to know what their roles and responsibilities are. Because truly, if everyone owns it, then nobody owns it, right? They need to know what they're responsible for. And before you add another meeting, you add another employee, you want to make sure that the responsibility is shared, right? That they understand what they're responsible for. And that's where the accountability piece is going to come from your team as well.
It's so funny because I was literally thinking about the conversation we had the other day. If you do not have things defined, if you don't want to have like, I've heard, so there's a theory running around where like you don't define people by a title, you define them by duties. It's like, what duties do you like to do? And so sometimes in smaller companies, like people will split out the duties that they like to do, right? But it is so imperative that you have whether you call it a process or not, a task, right? You have the task written down that need to be accomplished and people taking ownership, because if not, you end up with decision paralysis. When there's so much chaos, as humans, we just go, not my problem. Not my problem. I'm just going to ignore it, right? And so, like, having like a list and be like, who's going to take what, who has what responsibility. If you have more employees and everybody has defined roles, having the responsibilities and expectations defined. If you don't have any of that kind of going on, that is definitely like starter number one. That's like ground zero. If you don't have ground zero going, all the rest of it will be crud. So definitely, whether it's task-based assignment, role-based assignment, like however you want to handle that, you want to call it responsibilities and duties, whatever you want to label it at, 100%. Like, if not, you are literally going to go, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. Somebody give me something. Yeah. That's the worst, because that makes you stagnant. 100%.
So I think this next scenario kind of maybe ties into this a little bit. I'm reading it now. Honestly, it's the first time I'm reading it, but it sounds like a good problem to have. So sales have doubled, customers are pouring in, your employees are overwhelmed, and there are mistakes that are happening. So what are you fixing first? Are you hiring more people? Are you standardizing your processes? Are you raising your prices? Or are you going to slow down growth? Let me just say now, D is not.
I literally have been in this situation. Like, okay. 100%. Growing a team, hiring as fast as we can, training. Like I said, we were developing roles that didn't exist. Like, in roles that I've never even hired for, never even knew what those people did. Like, I'm like Google searching, trying to figure out how to put this role into the organization because I know that we need it. Like, mass chaos, right? What did I do first? Anytime there's a mistake, because I am operations, I am super analytical. The first thing I do is say, hey, what happened? Like, give me the situation. Okay, let's kind of look at the situation. What are some things that we could do for the future? Because I try really hard not to blame somebody for a mistake when it fell through the cracks. Like, it didn't follow normal. So, like, in this case, in this exact scenario, you have somewhat of an outline for like a process, whether it's like, I need you to sign the paper and then hand it to Becky. Okay, whatever the case may be. But you sign the paper and hand it to Becky, but Becky got up to go to the bathroom, put her books down on it, and now that paper got lost, right? I'm like, cool, what happened? Well, Becky didn't see it. I put it on our desk and then somebody put a book on it. I'm like, okay, cool. Can we label a tray for Becky on Becky's desk and you just put them on Becky's tray, right? So it's like, what happened? Oh, okay, cool. What can we do to not do that anymore, right? So for me, as an operation-driven brain, as an analytical brain, that is literally like encompassing what I do. What was the problem? Okay, cool. I get how that happened. Let's figure out how we can stop that from happening in the future. Here's X, Y, and Z stopgaps. And then when the issue happens again, I'm like, cool. Did we follow X, Y, and Z? Yes, we did. Okay, great. What could have happened? And sometimes, so this is where like reprimanding more comes into play. Steps A, B, and C were there, and I did A, C, D, right? Like, that is when it's like, okay, this is a recoaching thing. This is a training thing. This is the whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's a people thing. Some people are just like, I will not follow that. So, you know, like that's in my mind, that's when that happens. But like when you're starting out, to me, I'm always like, oh no, what happened? What could we have done to prevent that? Cool, let's put that in place. How does that work with our existing flow? Do we need to rearrange things? It's really, really crazy though when you have piling that kind of stuff, right? So again, it comes back to like, does everybody have a task and a role assigned to them? Great, cool. Is everybody putting their processes into place? Great. Okay, we made mistakes. Let's go back and revisit those processes. Great. Do we need tech? Do we need people? And once you have that process in place and you know that it can be repeated and you're like, okay, cool. Everything's been repeated. We just are not fast enough. Is there a way to make it automated, or do we need a person? Like, that's when those decisions come into my brain. My first go-to will always be, it's a process thing. It's a process thing. Somebody didn't know what they needed to do. Let's regroup. Let's recoach. Let's relook at it. And then if If it's just like there's just not enough people, then it's like, cool, can we automate some of this? Do we need to hire for this? Like that sort of thing. When I say automate it, I do not think automation should take place of somebody's job. I need everybody to hear that. Automation is meant to help people in their current positions, right? And we talk about, Nicole and I have talked about this in all kinds of different situations. There are plenty of times that repeated tasks can be automated, right? That is when I'm talking about automation, things that elevate you to your customer, right? Like whatever you can remove that's preventing you from being able to give customer service to your customers, those are the things that you might want to look at automating. You never want to automate the customer's relationship with you, your product that you're giving out. And I'm not talking manufacturer industry kind of thing. Like that's not necessarily where I'm going. I'm just talking about like task and things that you're doing within your organization. Typically, like there are some places that can be automated, and then there are some places that really need to have somebody there. And sometimes it's a hybrid, right? Like maybe that first email is automated all the time, but any kind of follow-up touch point gets flipped to a real person, things like that. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Okay. All right, Nicole, what's the real answer? What's the true answer?
I agree with all of that. Obviously, I agree. You know what? I think that growing doesn't cause the chaos. I think it's the fact that when you start growing, it starts exposing the gaps that you have in your processes, right? So it is very, very clear, like, oh, when you're slow and you can do things, take your time, you don't notice those gaps as much as when like shit hits the fan and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to operate smoothly and nobody knows where this is. Nobody knows how to make an invoice. Nobody knows how to get an invoice paid. Nobody knows how to take an order. So if every employee is doing things differently, that growth is going to just magnify the inconsistencies that you have in your operation. So I think it just kind of goes back to the same thing, right? In every single scenario that we had today, we talked about not go out and hire more people, not get more software, because the software sometimes just makes it worse. And there's nothing worse than buying a piece of software that costs you thousands of dollars just to have it sit there because nobody is using it to its full potential, right? So if anything, with all of these different scenarios, my answer is always going to go back to make sure you have a system in place. Make sure you have standardized processes. Make sure you have those SOPs. Nobody loves making SOPs. It's boring. Who wants that? I want to go out and make money and that's it.
I like to make SOPs. I like to make SOPs. I love to make processes and procedures. I love to solve problems and I love to make people's jobs faster. So we are the weirdos in that situation. But we
scientists.
Yeah, we will tell you right now, it's so important. And like that's what I mean by that whole like plugging holes and stuff. It's like people would be like, oh great, we have a process. And I'm like, we have a process until we apply pressure. That's called a Band-Aid. I have got you something, but you got to go back and you test it. Again, you're right. Data scientist is like literally the best description of this. So whenever I've got anything, I go back and I test it over and over again and I tweak it based on like what failed in the test. And that's exactly what I mean when I'm like, I have a process and then I go back and say, oh, there was an error. You had a mistake. Now let's fix the process. It's the same concept when you're growing. It's like, okay, hand it to Becky, sign it, hand it to Becky, sign it, hand it to Becky. And then it's like, oh, wait, something happened because we added 3 people that are handing it to Becky. And Becky's like, now I've got them all over my desk and I don't know where they are. And now we have a tray, right? Like we went back and we revisited the problem and we fixed it again and again. So just because you have a process in place does not mean it's the final process in place. It's just what you needed in the moment to hit the next level. And every level will add pressure to those processes and you have to tweak them. This is definitely not a one and done thing. We're constantly changing processes and procedures because where you were yesterday is not where you're going to be, hopefully, and 30 days from now, right? Like that's a good problem to have. If you're having to fix processes because you're adding pressure from hiring and having customers and having more money in your business, like that's what you want. Right? Like don't look at that as a bad thing. That's a great thing. That usually is an indicator of growth. What happens is if you don't fix it, you stall out and you like it starts to sink. the pressure buckles. Like it will buckle it. It's so important that you revisit your operations, your process, your procedures time and time again, and just make sure that you have them going. And they do not have to be, it doesn't have to take a long time. Like it truly doesn't. Like even getting started with processes and procedures, like they don't have to take a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially as you add team members, you can also delegate one of your team members who becomes the expert in the process to create it, right? No one knows more about it than the person who's doing it day to day. And like you said, it's a good problem to have. Growth is great and everyone wants that, but you have to stay organized in order for that growth to not continue to feel so chaotic and overwhelming for you or your team, especially as you're growing, right? You're adding more things to people's plates, to your plate. So I do think it's so important to make sure you have all those things established. Um, yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, so I will say if you're not as nerdy, if you're not as SOP and process driven as Nicole and I, that's okay. We are honestly here to help you, right? And so we actually have a workbook that you can get. And the workbook is us sitting down and being like, if we were going to help somebody make changes within 30 days, what would we have them do? And so we sat down and it got broken into very bite-sized chunks, right? Because we understand everybody is busy when you're growing a business and when you're doing these things. Like even if you're running a big team and you're like, I just need help with my team, right? Like having these things in place make a huge difference. And so we want to highly suggest you check out the description and get that link if you're just like, I don't know where to start. If you are like, you know what, I really actually just want you guys to do it for us, we can do that as well. Like we understand that not everybody wants to deal with that. And it honestly is like our favorite thing because we're really big weirdos. But if it's not your cup of tea, we are still here to help you with that as well. So again, we have that workbook that you can get, or if you're like, I just need some help, like you can book a meeting with us. We're more than happy to help you with that as well. So, all right. That was a lot of fun. I loved this one. So the last one and this one, they were so much fun. So we're going to have to play these games some more. It's so much fun when we don't like prep. Like we really don't prep for a lot of these things. And we love to be like off the cuff. Sometimes I'm always like, I hope I don't zig when she wanted me to zag, and I'm just like not on the same page as her. But I feel like we're usually pretty like on the same page, even if we're like coming from opposite directions on it. Like I feel like we're pretty good on it.
We
So
can always meet in the middle.
yeah, exactly. All right, you guys. We will see you guys again.
Bye.
Bye.